Positive Communication Show with your host, Matthew Cooper, where crisis meets communication. Join Matthew on the journey of skills, techniques, and wisdom on empowering your communication and enriching your relationships. Matthew has been a student and practitioner of self-help skills and crisis communications for over 20 years. He owns Positive Control Systems, a crisis communication and intervention business, and teaches these skills to parents, teenagers, and professionals. Here is your host, Matthew Cooper.
This is Matthew Cooper with the Positive Communication Show on Ohm Times Radio. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Since this is switching over to the new FM station, I wanted to welcome you all who are here. Now, you may not know who I am. Those of you who are tuning in from the normal Positive Communication Show from on the other station for Ohm Times, let me give myself an introduction. My name is Matthew Cooper, and I have a business called the Positive Control Systems, which is teaching different crisis communication skills to troubled youth facilities and professionals across the troubled youth industry. I have also worked with law enforcement. I've worked with professional psychiatrists, therapists, etc., teaching them how to be able to interact more effectively with the youth in their facilities. I also have worked with law enforcement in helping them to work with different crowd control techniques and also being able to work with military. Myself being also former military, I would like to shout out to all of my veteran friends out there and those who I have not yet met. Thank you so much for your service, because with Veterans Day, recognizing all of the work, all of the sacrifices, all of the lives that have been lost, I would not be able to be here on this station, nor would I be able to be with so many wonderful people in this world that I've met, simply because of those people, those men and women who have sacrificed their time, their efforts, and sometimes the ultimate cost of their lives to be able to allow us to be here in the United States today. Continuing on. What I talk about and what I like to communicate and share on my shows oftentimes is communication, different ways that people have of communicating. And you may be saying, well, what about talking? Isn't that communicating? Yes, talking and speaking is a form of communication. However, it is not all that there is to communication. Since all behavior, everything we do, all behavior is communication, when we are communicating with people, it's more than just the words that we say. It's also how we're saying. It's also the body language we're using. It's the facial expressions. It's the clothes that we wear, perfume or cologne that we also wear, the haircuts that we have, tattoos or body jewelry or any other piercings. That communicates something as well. And so the question is not, what am I communicating? It's, what do I not realize what I'm communicating? Because we're communicating to somebody else, they're picking that up, and then we are also getting that information back. I hope that makes sense. When I deal with the communication aspects in dealing with the crisis communication training which I teach, I focus on people being able to understand what's already out there, what they already know, and then hopefully making some small changes to be able to add to what they already have. it wouldn't be, at least from my perspective, a very good idea to try and take everything they've done and say, no, that does not work. You must do it my way. If I'm doing that, that instead would, I'm sure, cause some resistance. People asking the question, well, what makes you think you're so smart? Why is this better than what I'm already using? And so I really make a point of not trying to tell them you're wrong, because they're not. Everyone is communicating something and they're successful. I know they're successful because they have gotten this far. They have been able to communicate their wants, their needs, their intentions, their ideas, their thoughts to a point of at least a general amount of effectiveness, because they have grown up, they have been able to mature, and they've been able to be in relationships, they've been able to have jobs. That is communicating something. Now, if I can add to that, that is a very, very big plus. When I talk about adding to their communication, there's a couple of things which I've picked up over the years. I don't know if any of you are familiar with what's called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Great stuff. For those of you that are familiar with it, I'm sure you recognize this is the bomb. I call it ninja skills, verbal ninja skills. Additionally, I also refer to it as Jedi mind tricks. The NLP techniques, they're developed by Richard Bandler and John Grinder back in the 1960s and 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And the NLP, what's so neat about it is almost like a shortcut to understanding your brain and how to be able to get results in your life. You can't control other people. What you can do is control yourself. And understanding how your brain works and how you can begin changing your own behaviors are some of those first skills that make a huge, huge impact on how you're able to begin changing your own belief structures, patterns, paradigms, and then also changing your behavior patterns. That's a very brief overview of a lot of material that's been going on for over 3 decades, actually over 4 decades now. And the material is, from my perspective, phenomenal. I have been able to see big changes in my life as I have applied a lot of these techniques. We'll talk about some of those here in just a few moments. And by being able to personally take responsibility for my communication, I have been able to modify and change and improve the way that I'm able to communicate with other people. It's also the way I'm able to interact with other people and my own self. Because I'm not sure if you've heard the expression, if you don't love yourself, how can anyone else love you? If you're wanting to be in a relationship, and if you don't love yourself, how can the other person truly love you either? To be lovable, you have to love yourself. It's like being patient with other people. If you're not patient with yourself, it's very difficult to truly be patient with them. Having compassion, having all of these other different positive aspects to yourself, if you're not working to find them in yourself first, it makes it very difficult to be able to also have that with other people. There is a saying that I really like. It's a Zen koan. And this Zen saying is that if you cannot find it where you're standing, where do you expect to wander in search of it? If you cannot find it where you are standing, where do you expect to wander in search of it? And with these skills, we first need to be that person. Mahatma Gandhi said that, this is paraphrased, of course, we must become the change we want to see in the world. Because if we're not going to be that person who is going to be the example, who else can we expect to be? And I don't think there's really anyone we can expect to do anything unless we ourselves are willing to do it first. We can't tell them, you need to do this first. We can't expect them to take that first step in introducing themselves to us. We need to make sure we're making that effort. And the reason why I'm mentioning taking those first steps for introduction or being able to communicate to someone is because I work with parents. I also work with other professionals in a variety of fields. And parents, I'm wanting to reach out to more often than not because I'm a single dad with 5 kids. My youngest is 10, oldest is 19. They all live with me. They have, for the most part, lived with me since I was divorced, going on 8 years ago. And what I find to be fascinating about the whole process of working with my kids and being able to have that connection with the communication is that you as a person, when you become a parent, when you truly understand more of your children, you You need to learn to accept them for who they are, not tolerate, not attempt to force them into a box which you've created, which you believe they belong to. You allow them to be who they are, and you accept them for who they are, and then you adapt your communication style to what they need. Not what you want to give them, but what you need. I was speaking with a friend recently, and I just got introduced to her a couple weeks back and was able to chat with her, and she was having some challenges with her kids. She also has 5 kids, divorced about 8 years ago as well. And listening to her speak about her children, listening to the challenges that she was having with they call it oppositional defiance, these issues that children will have and how they're responding to their parents, I'm hearing what she's saying, like, wow, you are a poster child for what I'm trying to say that does not work. I respect that she's been able to be this mom to these 5 children. I respect that she's done so much, and it's fantastic. I also recognize that when they turn into teenagers, if you try and use the same tactics and strategies that you were using when they were younger, you're going to have issues. You will have problems. Why do you think that's the truth? Why do you think that's the case? The reason why these children, when they turn into teenagers, are much more of an issue than when they're younger, many times, is because as they grow older, there's something they want from their parents, which they are attempting to receive and to get from every single interaction they have. That's called respect. And if they're not getting that respect from their parents, then they're going to be acting out in attempts to get that respect. Acting out in ways that they found have worked with friends, worked with these colleagues of theirs, if you will, their fellow students, fellow teenagers in school. So if a fellow student at school is yelling at you and you want to be respected, you're going to yell back at them. I demand respect. And if you don't get that respect, what do? Well, you keep yelling. It doesn't quite work that same way with parents, though, does it? Parents tend to have just a few more issues with you yelling at them, and they should. There are ways to work around that, which we'll cover in just a few moments here, right after the break. Stick around.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on Om Times Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Welcome back. This is Matthew Cooper with Om Times Radio. And I just wanted to continue our conversation which we've been able to continue speaking about the parents, and we have teenagers and this little issue called respect. I'm sure those of you who are listening were taught when you were younger, respect is earned, it's not given. And if you weren't taught that, well, that's what I was taught. My dad, he is a former Marine. They are never an ex-Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Hoorah! I have a number of friends who are or have been active duty with Marines, and now they are no longer actively serving in the military. However, they are still Marines. And with the Marine Corps' birthday, I believe that was yesterday, and now, of course, we have Veterans Day today, I would like to say thank you and simplify, my friends. I may not be a Marine, having had friends who are Marines, having served with Marines, and also having a father who's a Marine. I want to say thank you for your service. A lot of great people out there who have sacrificed their time, their efforts, their lives in order to be able to ensure that we have the liberties which we enjoy today. And those liberties should not be taken lightly. The same way that we should remember the sacrifices not only of the men and women in the armed forces. It reminds me also of 9/11 and those brave firefighters, police officers, every single volunteer, every person who put their lives, their time, their efforts, their livelihoods on the line to be able to assist those people in New York City who were affected by that attack. I would like to also salute them and thank them for their efforts and remember the sacrifices they made, and that the world isn't as safe as we'd like it to be. And so there needs to be those people who are willing to put themselves out there in the front to protect the rest of us that are not out there in the front, and being that shield, if you will, to us, to help us continue to live our lives, to enjoy the happiness, and to continue to raise the next generation. The older I get, the more I start thinking more about how the military and how the armed forces has shaped this country and the culture of it. And I appreciate it more and more every year. So I just want to thank the veterans once again, and I will continue to thank them, both my thoughts, words, and deeds. And with each segment that we have, this is essentially partially a tribute to them because of all the work that they do and what they're communicating with their efforts and their sacrifices. So thank you. Continuing onwards, we're speaking about parents and the issues that they have with teenagers and how the problems, they're not even really issues, they're problems. They're definite problems with the actions that teenagers are defying their parents. They're fighting, and the parents think they're fighting against them. Well, the youth are not fighting against the parents. The youth are fighting for themselves. Okay, there's a statement made. I want to say it was Robert Rohn. I have to double check on the statement that was made. He said that the youth are, or whomever it is that you're having a conflict with, they're not doing it to you. They are doing it for themselves. Let me repeat that. They're not doing it to you. They're doing it for themselves. In some ways, you can look at it like an animal. An animal does not see, for example, a predator does not see its prey as being an individual that can think, as something or someone that is important to them. They are simply prey. They are simply something to fill their belly, not someone or something to get emotionally or mentally caught up in. Well, oftentimes when you're working with other people, when they get angry and they frustrated and they start lashing out, they are in a similar situation where they are not thinking about the people. They are objects. They are individuals, or pardon me, they're not individuals. They are things. They are not people. And when they have that kind of a response where they're not people, they're things, then what you have are people that are lashing out at things that they do not relate to, if you will. And so when they're not relating to that person in front of them that they're angry at, frustrated at, yelling and screaming at, they're able to vent, and they may, if they're able to come back to a more reasonable state of mind later, they may feel remorse for how they treated someone, and then they'll go and they'll apologize. The only reason why they're having any remorse is because now they've gone from seeing that as no longer a person, when they were in that state. They're now seeing that as a person with a name rather than just a number. They're no longer a thing. They are someone who thinks, who feels, and that they have realized, I have hurt this person, I apologize. When we are able to recognize that these teenagers, they also get into those states. They are in a defensive state. They have put into that fight or flight state. They will get angry, they'll get frustrated, they'll freeze, they'll fight, or they'll run away. Very, very, very common when you're dealing with a teenager or anyone who is in a critical situation. Okay? You can train yourself out of that situation. It takes time, it takes effort, psychological training to be able to then work with that. That's what you'll have people that work with the combat, the police officers. You'll also have it with athletes, for example, mixed martial artists. Oftentimes they will freeze early on in their careers if they're not used to going through that stress of the freeze, fight, or flight. And then they can channel that and specifically choose to respond in a specific way. Respond, not react. Teenagers oftentimes will react. Well, reacting is a reflexive response that is not going to be one based on training. It's based on what they've experienced in their brain, attempting to search for a method or a way to be more successful in an endeavor. For example, they're wanting to get respect from their parents, and so they're going to yell and scream at them like they did when they were a child. If that worked when they were a child, then they're going to follow that because that is what has worked for them in the past. If they are able to realize it's not working, they will change tactics and try and find something else. Whether that is pouting, whether that is throwing a fit, whether it is being able to physically attack their parents, which unfortunately has happened all too many times. With that being the case, each one of those is them in this almost more of a primal state, attempting to figure out how they can get this feedback which they're wanting, which you may call respect. When parents are able to communicate with their teens, with their children in a more effective way, showing respect and giving that first. Now, respect does not mean that you're allowing them to have what they want. You are not agreeing with them. Okay? Respect is simply accepting what is there, allowing them to do and be what they are, and then you, as a parent, can follow through with your communication. And part of that communication, from my perspective, is a thing called consequences. Consequences are not something that you give them, they're something which you enforce. It is a choice which they make, and then you're going to enforce their choice. Sometimes that is a natural response. For example, a natural consequence, if someone wants to punch a brick wall, and it's because they're angry, and they break their hand, well, that's a natural consequence. Really is. You want to go outside without a jacket in the middle of a snowstorm? There will be consequences for that. There's a natural consequence for eating too much. It's called fat. Okay, you will have issues. You can also have gastrointestinal issues and distress, etc., from eating too much. Don't want to exercise? That's okay. There's consequences. You want to drink too much alcohol? There are consequences. You want to smoke too much? Consequences. And if you like pot, well, guess what? You will get the munchies. Okay, so there are consequences. Now, consequences are not good or bad. They are simply a natural result of the choices which you make. That's something that parents need to understand is it is not good or bad. Do not be upset that your youth are doing certain things. Instead, allow them to do what they're doing and don't make it personal. Don't get mad. Don't get upset. This whole conversation I'm having with you is not just for parents. It is for managers. It is for friends. It is for siblings. It is for older parents talking to their spouse or to their siblings. It's for talking to their parents. It doesn't matter. This is communication, my friends. Communication. There's a great book. Great book called Nonviolent Communication by Dr. Rosenberg. Dr. Rosenberg. The guy's great. Marshall Rosenberg. And what I thought was so fantastic about the book was that it took me about 4 times. I think I read it 4 times before it actually was able to click in my head. And the reason why I thought that was fantastic is because when you are presented with a situation that you don't understand, or that you thought you knew something and then you were introduced to some other information, you can have a response called cognitive dissonance. Now, with cognitive dissonance, look, for example, if someone was telling you, or that you were raised your entire life believing and understanding and knowing that the sky is blue. Okay, you look up, oh, it's blue. Okay, the sky is blue. I know what's going on. And then you go to college and you find out, no, the sky is not blue. It's actually clear. What? That moment, that's the cognitive dissonance. Your brain is attempting to come to an understanding of, you were taught this for so long and now you get this? What's going on? That doesn't fit. It doesn't match, and your brain goes blank for a few moments. Then you can have more understanding, of course. Okay, the blue comes from the way that you're having the oxygen and other elements within the atmosphere, and the refractory nature of the sunlight through it causes it to have a blue color. Oh, okay. All of a sudden, you'll now have more understanding. But for that brief time of that confusion, that cognitive dissonance is going to be an issue. So with that cognitive dissonance, I also had that with this book, okay, the nonviolent communication. And what was so interesting about it, so fascinating about it, was that I realized, okay, the communication I was using and that most parents use is communication which is based on combative mindsets. We're going to force people to do what we want. We're going to tell them they will do it because I am the boss. Well, that works when they're younger to a point. You can bully your children into doing what you want to a point when you're younger. When they get older, it's not that easy. It's actually much, much more difficult. And Dr. Rosenberg, he uses this, and I really respect the man, and I really like the material. I also realize that it's not always the ideal. Okay? There are some great things there, something that I would highly recommend everyone learn. However, in all situations, you can't always talk your way out of it. And yet, when you have the time, especially when working with your family, do your best to talk your way out of it. That's going to get you farther than anything else. Stick around. Break's coming up in just a moment. Be right back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Welcome back. This is Matthew Cooper on the Positive Communication Show with Om Times Radio. We just were talking about parenting. Yes, parenting and communication, and the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall B. Rosenberg. Now, Dr. Rosenberg, he uses his book, and he has been able to do some tremendous things. I have, as I mentioned earlier, had to read the book about 3 times before it kicked in my head, and I realized, oh, this stuff is good. Because before I felt this was weak. I felt this is not going to work. This is too soft. How can you expect any of this to work? And I had been raised in a combative communication environment. I lived it, not only with, for example, the military, or with my home, being raised at home, with then in my marriage for the first 15 years. It was a combative communication. You got frustrated, you took it out on somebody because you're mad, and it wasn't the most positive of environments. That's life. That's life for a lot of people. And yet, what his books brought into my mind, into my heart, in my life, was that there are other ways. I've heard of other ways, but I never really learned about them, and I never realized they could be this powerful, especially when working with my children. And having the nonviolent perspective, being able to openly and honestly communicate my feelings to my children, and having that empathy with them made a huge, huge difference. And one example, for example, I'm sure you've heard about the proper way to share an emotion. Okay, the way, just to paraphrase and to give an overview, the way to share an emotion is to say, I feel, and then the emotion, because, and then you explain why you're feeling it. All too often, people will say, well, I'm sharing my emotions. I feel you owe me an apology because you really pissed me off. That's not really sharing an emotion. Because if you can take that first statement, and instead of saying I feel, if you can put I think instead, I think that you owe me an apology because you really pissed me off. Okay, guess what? I feel you owe me is not an emotion. An emotion would be I feel hurt because you yelled at me when I didn't think I did anything wrong. Okay. You feel hurt. Okay. It is very difficult to argue that a person is feeling something or not. If they're feeling it, you can't say, no, you're not feeling that. How do you know? It's really hard for you to accurately and effectively argue a person's emotion. Are you feeling this or not? I don't know. I'm not you. I can't feel what you're feeling. Okay. And so if that's the case and you can't argue that, I feel such and such. I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel embarrassed. I feel hurt. I feel overjoyed, whatever it is. If you feel this way because of a certain whatever it was, that allows you to now share openly with someone. And when you're able to share openly with someone, that puts you in a position that is very, very powerful, incredibly powerful, actually. That power is being able to have empathy with someone else. With my children, for example, if they are having a bad day or they get upset and they're angry and they yell at me, and I say, hey, I can understand feeling angry. I feel angry, or I feel frustrated right now with you because you're yelling at the other kids. Why are you doing that? I'm letting them know how I feel. I'm not trying to keep the stone face. When I was younger, I was accused of having a stone face because I wouldn't share my emotions. Especially when I was married with my ex-wife, she would get mad at me because I wouldn't share those emotions. I wouldn't allow her to see how I was feeling with my facial expressions. As I got older, as I learned afterwards and did the research, I found, that was me protecting myself by not showing that emotion and not allowing myself to feel or be attacked anymore and being vulnerable. So I was armoring myself and my emotions to protect myself internally, which I thought was interesting. So by being able to share these emotions honestly, the other person will know what you're feeling, and then you can have a dialogue. You can now open the communication path, if you will, for a dialogue, which you can now explain what's going on, how you're feeling, and you can ask them if they're okay. Are you feeling this way or that? It seems this way to me. I notice all too often when people say, well, I feel this way, they will then attempt to tell another person how they're feeling. I'm feeling angry right now because you're doing this and this, and you are so mean. Oh, you're accusing them now. Okay, so now you're attacking them with words saying they're mean. Let's back up. Let's say, all right, if they're feeling this way, ask a question instead of pointing a finger. Nobody likes to be having a finger pointed at them. You're attacking them. You're telling them you're being this way. You're mean. You're such a meanie, a bad person. I don't like to call people names, so I won't even start now. If you are calling them names, you're going to be attacking them. That does not work. It creates more conflict. It creates more anger, more hurt feelings, and now you're going to have even more issues in attempting to create some sort of an open dialogue between you. However, what I like to do in these situations, I've worked with my kids so many times, working with my clients, working to teach them, my clients, and have them work with their staff members and their clients over and over the years, thousands of times. Sure enough, wow, this stuff works great. I don't know how I ever live without it. This is one of the very simple conversations I'll have. I will say something to the point of, you know what, I'm feeling really confused because of the way that you've been acting, frustrated, angry. It seems like you're feeling really angry lately. Are you okay? Are you all right? Is there anything I can do to help you? I have then told them what I'm perceiving and how I'm feeling, and then I'm now offering to help them. I'm asking them a question. When you ask a question, you're respecting that person. When you're respecting them, they oftentimes will then give you respect back, that reciprocity. Because you're showing empathy, oftentimes they will show it back. Very powerful. Works great, absolutely great with my children, worked great with my ex-wife, works great with other past girlfriends, works great with other friends of mine. You can get so much out of those kinds of situations if you are willing to not take it personal, to step back, ask yourself internally, what am I doing? What could I be doing better? How can I improve myself? And what else can I do to help the situation? If you're not willing to make and take that step, how could anyone else be expected to either? We need to be that person. As I mentioned before with Mahatma Gandhi, we must become the change we want to see in the world, or become the change you want to see in the world. Do it. Make that effort. Take that effort. Make that change in your life. No one will make that change unless you change first. And I'm not saying someone out there is not going to change. No. I'm saying if you want to have change in your life, you need to make that first step. Okay? Take the step. Be able to begin the process. Nobody else will do that for you. And when working, especially with communicating with other people, by making that choice, by taking that time to say, hey, this is how I'm perceiving this situation. It seems like I feel that you're really angry right now. What's going on? How can I help you? If they yell or scream at you, why are they doing that? They're not doing it to you. They're doing it for themselves. We're not taking this personal. Wow, it seems like, are you okay? You seem really frustrated right now. Yeah, I'm frustrated because of this and this. Oh, I'd be frustrated about that and that too. So what else is going on? What can I do? It sounds like this problem's been going on for a while. Yeah, it's been going on for years. All of a sudden, they start opening up. They start communicating with you. They start sharing with you. Especially when I'm working with my kids, I've seen the biggest changes because this is real. This is real life. This is not in some laboratory somewhere. This is not on stage when I'm teaching and lecturing and working with my clients. This is in real life. They're having a crisis. They're having a problem. They're sharing with me. They want to be around me. If my children are doing that, I'm doing something right as a person. I'm doing something right as a parent. When my children want to be around me, they want to talk to me, they want to share with me, they want to share their lives, their experiences, and I am able to then be that listening ear, to provide advice, to give them ideas and thoughts, to ask questions, to help them look for those answers within themselves. These are things that every parent, every mentor should be doing. If you are a manager working with your employees, project manager, I don't care if you have subcontractors you're working with. I don't care who it is. If you're doing that, you will be able to get better cooperation, more respect from your people, the better that you are able to use these skills in your life every single day. I found that when using these skills, it needs to be every day, all day long. Whenever I have an interaction with someone, I need to be using these skills, whether in talk, text, face-to-face, you name it, any interaction. Because by being that change, by me taking the time to change my communication, I'm going to be able to make that difference with every single person that I meet. Because now they're seeing, they're experiencing, and they're hearing somebody who cares. Somebody who will listen to them, listen to their desires, their needs, their wants. And that person, me, is now making an effort to help them get what they're wanting out of the situation. Make it a win-win for everyone. To do so, though, you first have to take a step back and do not be so caught up in yourselves. It's very easy for us to be super egocentric, as children especially. The world revolves around us. We are the most important person in the world. As we grow older, we realize, wow, the universe does not revolve around us. If the universe does not revolve around us, then that means we're not as important as we thought we were. Some people never learn that. Some people forget that they're not as important as they think they are. And they are so much better and important than anyone else. And in doing that, they tend to create animosity and have issues with those around them, their relationships. If they want to change it, if they want to make that different, they have to start to look at themselves first before anyone else. Break coming up here. Stick around, be back in just a few moments.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Matthew Cooper with the Positive Communication Show on Om Times Radio. We've been speaking about a variety of aspects of communication. We've been speaking about the nonviolent communication aspects from Dr. Rosenberg. We've also spoken about the ideas of respect that are had with coworkers, with family, with parents and children. And really everyone around you, and how respect does not need to be earned. It's given first, and then reciprocity jumps in, and now it's given back. That does not mean, however, that we are agreeing with the behaviors, the patterns, the mindsets of whoever else is there. No, not at all. Instead, what we're dealing with is that we are accepting, not agreeing, but we are accepting the way that they are, the way they're acting, and whether we agree with it or not, doesn't matter. We are accepting that they are doing what they're doing and allowing them to be who they are. One of the biggest, I guess I should say, ways of being able to understand that right now, over here in Utah, where I live, very, very high gay population. I have some gay friends, and I've watched the news and seen the big challenges so many people have with the gay marriage and even just the gay lifestyle and the mindset of those people. And having grown up in a household when I was younger, I was a homophobe. I was very much against the gay people. Why? That's wrong. It's against what God has taught. Well, that's one perspective. It doesn't mean it's the right perspective. It just means that that's one perspective. And some people, that is their belief system, and I respect that. I accept that as their perspective. I don't have to agree with it. I accept it. Now, I am not gay myself. I have gay friends. I have good gay friends. I love going out and doing karaoke. One of the DJs at one of the places I go to, his name is Cooper. He just loves me. He's always hitting on me. He's a fun guy. I don't have any interest in him in that way. There's no romantic interest. He is a wonderful person. Love him to death. We go and sing up on stage together. Okay, great guy. However, just because I accept him doesn't mean that I agree with what he's doing as it's good for me. Okay? And I hear so much opposition on shows, radio shows, on TV, on the news. I see so much in print, and this diatribe, this angst, this anger, this almost hatred, it seems, from so many groups, because this group of homosexuals has chosen to be who they are. Instead of accepting them, loving them, and allowing them to be that way, there is so much counter pressure saying, no, that's wrong, and we're going to tell you what's wrong. That to me is an infringement upon rights. It is not for me to tell people who they can and cannot love. It's not for me to tell them what they can do with their genitals. That is, to me, that is a vast, grossly overstepping of bounds, personal bounds. It is not for me to tell someone what they can and can't do that way. If they are consenting adults, it is not for me to tell them at all. If they are breaking the law, that's one thing. If they have made these choices and that's their lifestyle, they're great. Are they hurting anyone? No. Then why can't we just accept people for who they are? I don't care what color they are. Black, green, yellow, purple, red. I don't make a difference. I don't care. To me, it's a case by case basis. How does this person treat me? Oh, they treat me well. Great. And so because I was treating them well in the first place, that means that was a behavior I'm going to continue. Yeah. Communication, my friends. Communication is everywhere around us. All behavior is communication. It's everywhere. We can choose to fight it, which in itself is a form of communication, or we can choose to master it. We can choose to recognize what is going on, make the connections in our minds, in our hearts, our spirits, and then take action in our daily lives. To utilize these communication skills to be able to connect with people and be able to make our lives more close, more loving, and more accepting of the people around us. To build these connections with people. You know, what's so important to me about this, after I got divorced, I was broken. Plain and simple, I was broken. I was heartbroken. I was if I looked toward thinking of my future, it was shattered. I had no future anymore. I didn't know what to do. And so what I started on was a quest to figure out what went wrong. What did I do? What did she do? How could I have changed it? What could have gone better? And I studied book after book, studied courses, took courses, paid for courses, and I realized, okay, there are some complete different love languages going on. I was reading the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. And I was mentioning on Facebook to some of my friends in the area that this is a great book. And my guitar teacher's wife said, hey, check this book out. It's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And she said, this is an even better book for me. I really, really love the book. Oh, really? Okay, sweet. Loved it. Fantastic book. Made a huge difference in how I was communicating with not only my children, I also realized where the problems went with my ex-wife and I. We had vastly different love languages, and neither one of us were getting what we wanted or needed from the relationship. We could try, we could show that love, we could do our best to be able to give that attention and love to our spouse. And yet it was not the right type. It's like trying to stick gasoline in a diesel engine. And diesel in a gasoline, it's not going to work. You will have issues. Your vehicles are going to die. Well, that was our relationship. I was looking for some gasoline, and she's looking for diesel. Okay. Recognizing now as I look back on that, these were some critical things that could have, if both of us were interested, both of us were committed, we probably could have kept our relationship going. We really could have. We didn't. I was interested in working on it. She wasn't. That's okay. We're both better off for it. She recently got married. She's now with a gentleman that she has been dating for, I think, 3 years. They get along great. He treats my children well, and I'm happy for her. Honestly, no, I'm happy for her. And preferably, she's going to be staying as far away from me as possible. However, yes, I am happy for her, and I wish her the best. I really do. And so part of what I've learned and watching the relationship that she has with her new husband, they have very similar love languages. And so it fits for them. It works very well for them. If you have someone in your life that you're already in a relationship with and you're finding that it's going well, think of your love languages and what you're doing. If what you're doing for the love languages is not seeming to work, find out what your partner's love language is, and then instead of showing them love with your love languages, which is what we normally do, we'll share our love with them in the same love language we want to receive love back as. Instead, give love to them with their love language. If you're partners in a relationship, married, etc., make sure that both of you are reading the book. You both understand it, so one of you is not doing all the work. That can also create resentment and frustration. So when you're both making that effort, you're both trying so hard, speaking the other person's love language, that can make a huge difference in how you're connecting and communicating. And if you are going through this marriage or wanting to get married again, for a long time I wasn't. Now I'm saying, you know what, I could do this. This is a possibility, providing I can find the right one. Now, it's not just one person out there. It's multiple people. However, them fitting that area of the same love languages as myself would be a very big indicator. Understanding my personality type, being able to work with that. So many of these different areas, they all tie together. And that was another area that I really dove into for communication, was relationships. And I've learned so much from having girlfriends these past number of years, because I can be with someone for a while and then I don't feel the interest, the attraction, everything seems to fall off after a time. It's as if I recognize this person does not connect with me in the same way. I can connect with them initially. It works great. And then I don't feel the reciprocity coming back to me. I get frustrated and I don't want to continue. It's interesting because I've spent so much time with communication I think I'm a bit spoiled because I expect other people to communicate with me as well as I'm communicating with them. So it makes it a little more challenging with the relationship. I can tell it's interesting how many ladies have been hitting on me the last few months as I've been making some changes to what I'm doing and recognizing some things. And I can find out, okay, they're wanting me to communicate with them. They're asking for more. Okay, that pause they're giving right there, they just ask a question. This is information they're wanting back. And I actually have to stop myself. Like, wow, had a lady just this last week. She was mentioning about football. I don't care about football. Football is not interesting at all to me. And he says, oh, yeah, are you going to watch the game tonight? Which one? Oh, the football game. Do you have a favorite team? No. She's attempting to find a connection with me. She's attempting to find something that I like, hoping that it'll be something that she likes, or at least mentioning something she likes to find that connection with me. She's a great lady. I can be friends with her. She's not someone that I want to have a relationship with beyond a friend in a business type relationship. I can recognize these things, though. In the past, I was clueless. So I know I'm doing something right. And being able to find how people are making these communication connections is huge for making sure you can build a relationship with someone. You have a surface level of connection. You have a deeper level of connection. The more deep level connections you have, the more you create a thing called love. Love, yes. Something that goes very strongly with your children, partner, family members, parents, etc. You are the one that makes those efforts. You are the one that changes what you're doing. You can't expect anybody else to, because as I said, we must become the change we want to see in the world. We are the ones that make the difference. Nobody else. Think about this, please. Come back next week, same time, same place. We'll catch you then.